Hello, my name is Deborah Fuller Fleetwood, and today I would like to tell you a bit about myself. So, my dad, he was deaf, as well as his first sister, they were both deaf, and they both went to New Jersey School for the Deaf and grew up in that area. My mother, no one is really sure if she was born deaf or hearing. That information just wasn't shared with her. And she went to American School for the Deaf in Connecticut. My mom and dad met in Massachusetts. They then got married, moved to New Jersey, and then I was born. And I was also born deaf. I went to NJSD and transferred to a different school, but I was involved in many activities, including cheer, basketball, hockey, a variety of activities. I was also president of the Girls' Speech Club. Once I graduated, I ended up meeting my husband, and he is from Texas, and we had my first daughter, who is deaf. She went to Maryland School for the Deaf, which is a campus near Gallaudet. And then later we then had my son, who ended up being hearing. So my whole family is pretty much deaf, except him was the hearing one, and he ended up being the interpreter. So at the time, there was not a large amount of interpreters to choose from, so we ended up using my son, and that was kind of his childhood, which he didn't seem to mind. So then once I was done in Texas, I went to work at a place called Western Electric in New York. I ended up working there for a few years, and they eventually changed their name from Western Electric to AT&T. I'd say there was about 25 deaf people who worked there as well. And there I learned to key punch. That was my job. So again, there weren't that many interpreters at the time. So if there was a meeting, I'd have to teach another employee how to learn sign, and then we actually became close friends that way. So they would watch the meeting and let me know what happened, which meant I was always the last to know, but that was fine. As time went on, I did say I felt a need to have an interpreter, and finally some were brought in to AT&T. And because of that, my boss, he really encouraged me to move up in the company because I worked well with the hearing individuals, especially in management. So I went to work with them, and I really liked it. We did engineering management. I was also involved in New Jersey Black Deaf Advocates. I was one of the founders, and I was the original president. We were a big support group for the Black and Deaf individuals. We went to the National Black Deaf Conference, and there were about 33 different chapters in various states, from various states there. Washington, D.C., Texas, Ohio. We were the 26th chapter, the one in New Jersey. And then the one in Delaware was the other one. So I'm still involved in New Jersey Black Deaf Advocates, and I work as a counselor there. I am currently vice president of the New Jersey New Jersey Association for the Deaf. And I find it very interesting, the need for advocacy for deaf rights and the need for interpreters for deaf individuals, and just how Black people should be more involved with various communities like the Hispanic community and other races. So my son, he was considered a coda, and he was really good at signing. I wanted him to be an interpreter, but he told me, Mom, no, I really don't want to. So I let him know that there's a coda conference, and I said, you should go to it, which he did not want to. He told me no. But I told him maybe you could bring a friend. It'd be good if you two went together. And it'd also be his first trip to Las Vegas. So my son was pretty angry with me because I bought him a ticket and wanted him to go. And then I said, you don't have to. It's up to you. He did end up going. It was a whole week conference, and I did not bother him by texting him or anything. So when the week was up and he came back, he was just so appreciative and so grateful. He said he learned a lot with the shared experiences of other codas and was very moved by it. So I told him at UCC they have more in-depth conferences about deaf culture, because your family, it's with your family. It's not the same. It's a separate entity from deaf culture. So he wasn't really up for it because he didn't want to go to the first one. So I thought maybe he'll want to go to this one too. He did end up going to it, and he said he learned a lot about deaf culture as well as the interpreter's roles and many things like that. So I was very happy for him that he went to those and found such success in it. And just this past Friday, he graduated with a master's degree at Gallaudet. So that's so amazing for him. I'm so happy. As for myself, working at AT&T, I worked there for 35 years. I am now retired. And there's so much that's going on in my life. My mom, she's turning 90 soon. It's her birthday next week. I also work for a vendor. So we're a little store that sells jewelry, handbags, different accessories like that. And we travel all around different states for an expo, which I really enjoy because I get to meet so many different people in all these different states. And I really just like having conversations with a variety of people from all different backgrounds. So I do love that. And I'm still doing that today, working with the vendor. I'm also involved in a senior citizens home. I'm on the committee, and I really encourage the committee to eventually set up a senior citizens house for the deaf and hard of hearing to live in. So I am the vice president for New Jersey Association of the Deaf, and we fight for rights for deaf individuals and how, well, ASL is a very important language. ASL needs to be preserved, and really it has a lot to do with a person's education, and I believe it should be learned every day. So my daughter, I tried to get her involved in the different things I'm involved in. She works at a group prison. She does parole there. And I have 2 grandchildren from her. One is 16 and one's going to be 14 soon. Us 2 actually have the same birthday, so that's exciting. And then she also, I have a new granddaughter who is 4 months old. She's so cute, so. My husband is retired. His name is Conrad, and he works with me at the vendors. We travel around together. He's a very big advocate for the organizations I go to and really supports going with me. He says he's learned a lot with the different meetings and organizations, which is really good to improve one's education learning through that way. So that's pretty much the work I'm doing now, is working with advocates and wanting the support for the deaf community. Yes, so about my experience at AT&T, at first there were no interpreters. And ITP wasn't really a program back then. So I let my boss know that I did need an interpreter because there were a few out there, but I needed to be provided one. When one was brought in, it was very important because then information could be shared between everyone, which meant including me, so I'd know what was going on with the hearing individuals, and they can know what my job is. So the interpreter provides such an important role in that. So each month a different interpreter would be brought in, and I became good friends with many interpreters, which was great. As I started to move up through the company through different jobs, I did training. We did one-on-one meetings, and interpreters were brought in for things like that. My boss was very appreciative of me, and I appreciated the fact that he did bring in an interpreter for me. It helped with the information sharing a lot. So there were about 25 deaf individuals working at AT&T, and I love them all so much. We were like family. And my boss loved us all too because, we're deaf. When we work, we're focused. We focus on our work. The hearing people are off making conversation and chit-chatting, so. And he encouraged all of us to move up through the company as well. I was a provider as well. That was one of my roles. I would keep records, and I'd have to make phone calls. So at the time, I would need to use the phone, and then I'd meet one-on-one and keep the records with that. In case they were lost, I have them on hold. I really enjoyed being a record keeper. I think people should know and be aware about interpreting services because when you sit down with a hearing individual and let them know about interpreters, it's very important to have that trust with the interpreter, and it allows the communication between the hearing individual and the deaf individual, so we can both learn from each other. Without an interpreter, I feel stuck. We have to write notes back and forth, and I feel the message can sometimes be lost. With an interpreter, you get that grammar that you wouldn't see in written notes that's found in ASL. And a lot of people think deaf people can't do this, can't do that, and that's not true. An interpreter is there to help us with that. And another thing is I really enjoy that. Oh, so an example is my mother. If she went to the hospital and I'd have an interpreter there, it would be great because I'd know everything that's going on and the information could be shared, like what's her illness, what is the doctor telling her, instead of writing down those big words on a paper that just go over my head. The interpreter's there to put that into ASL for my understanding. So I really just appreciate and cherish interpreters so much. So as interpreters are becoming more popular. So are other languages for interpreters, like Spanish speaking language interpreters. So I am still involved as an advocate, and I do a lot of traveling with that. And yeah, that's me.